world, Shawn. We're grateful to have you here. He, just so the viewer knows, he's the #1 realtor in all of Idaho. And then he's among the top 200 in the country.
Well, I think the funniest thing that I've told people this before, I think it's easier sometimes to sell $1 million house than it is a $100,000 house. Because for a first-time home buyer, that's their biggest investment they've ever made in their life. Sure. And they are so stressed. Whereas what I'm selling, it's not a need, it's a want.
They've attracted literally the wealthiest people on planet Earth. These are some of the best communities that money can buy. They don't get better than this. This is the top of the food chain, like the very, very top. These guys know how to market like I've never seen. They understand brand like I've never seen. I am pumped right now, right here, to have Mr. Shawn Taylor in the studio today. This guy, if you don't know, you probably do, but if you don't know, this is the premier realtor for our market. He's a broker that deals with the A-list celebrities of our community, the best athletes in our community, and the top business people all over the world. He's a broker for Gozzer Ranch. He's got a company called Timber Vale Real Estate. They service Big Sky, Schweitzer Mountain, Sandpoint, Coeur d'Alene, and yeah, the cherry on top, really, from my perspective, is his Gozzer connection. So
yeah, I'll jump in here too. One thing Eric and I are pumped about for Man on a Mission is we're deliberately looking at some of the premier brands in Coeur d'Alene,
right?
Like top companies, what makes living here incredible, the lifestyle, both from the day-to-day life even up to the luxury market. So a neat thing that people don't know is I don't think really the broader community knows the level Shawn plays at, because one of the things, having worked in kind of with the real estate community broadly here, is Shawn's one of the most understated, chill, relaxed. Don't be fooled by this, because the man's obviously accomplished quite a lot. He's faced a lot of dragons. But if you ask anybody in real estate about him, everybody will tell you they love his way of being.
Totally agree.
They'll tell me things like, I've heard, God, just being with Shawn, he's present. He's with you.
Yeah.
Like he's always carefree, lighthearted. But you can imagine, and we'll get into it, like he's dealing with some high-level people, so it's not like he doesn't know how to negotiate or any of those things. Right. Don't be fooled.
There's a finesse.
So I'm really intrigued to dive into your world, Shawn. We're grateful to have you here. He, just so the viewer knows, he's the #1 realtor in all of Idaho. You wouldn't know that because he doesn't even market it, right? So, but he is the #1. And then he's among the top 200 in the country. Yeah. So right here in our town. So Shawn, thanks for being here. I think as a first question, before we get into like where you are today, we had a chance to have a few coffees. Eric and I were talking to you. I want to swing back and if you could bring, touch on where you grew up, but that you really got your start on a ski mountain, and how in the world did you end up in North Idaho? So let's start there and see where this interview goes. So
it's like, what do ski bums end up doing? They sell real estate. Kind of keep the lifestyle going a little bit. Yeah. But I grew up in Kansas. We do the 10-hour bus ride in high school and go ski and everything. And I fell in love with the mountains. Got out of college, did a little stint in Chicago at the Board of Trade. One of my dad's salespeople got sick back in Kansas, went back to help out him. After about 6 months in Kansas, I moved out to Colorado and started out at a t-shirt shop that was a friend of my dad's from ski school back east at a place called Peak and Peak in upstate New York. And then I started waiting tables at the Hyatt in Beaver Creek. And that was great because I worked at night, snowboarded every day, was snowboarding 130, 140 days a year.
Oh, wow.
Did that for about 5 years, and then kind of got to that point of I was 28. I was like, well, I kind of got to get real with my life. I don't want to be doing this till I'm 70. Yeah. I mean, there was guys doing it, but it wasn't. I just didn't see myself on that path, and so went back to Kansas, tried to work for my dad again for a bit, and just couldn't be in the flatlands anymore. So I said, hey, I'm gonna go to the mountains. I did some research, looked at Bend, Oregon, Kellogg, and Schweitzer or Sandpoint to open a snowboard shop. Bend, Oregon, the town was too far away from the hill. Kellogg, that was back when it was smokestacks and no greenery. I just turned right around, went across the Long Bridge, lakes, mountain. I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Open a snowboard shop in '94.
Right above Sandpoint, Idaho at Schweitzer.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful places in America, by the way. That town is so cute, so quaint. Yeah. There's so much happening in that little town. But you have this beautiful mountain and then one of the most incredible lakes in all of Idaho,
and
maybe in America.
That long bridge, come across that bridge, you're like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, it's like your entry to heaven.
Yeah.
Sandpoint's a special place for sure. Now, you picked well, I think. I mean, I think that's what drives a lot of people up here is the natural beauty of this Coeur d'Alene market.
Yeah, how would, as a man who sells Schweitzer, I want to hear how you talk about it. How do you talk? Because you have a unique look into it. Like, what sets it apart?
Schweitzer.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Schweitzer. Yeah, don't tell anybody about it.
Well, you could still ski into the chair in midweek, and there's so many places that are so crowded right now. And even though Schweitzer's becoming discovered and this whole area is becoming discovered, it's still, compared to everywhere else, it's not crowded.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing hill, a lot of, varied terrain, different snow conditions. It's a special place.
Right. Beautiful views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got into, you opened, how did you open your first ski shop there?
So, well, it's kind of a funny
Snowboard
story.
shop, yeah.
I was walking through downtown. There was a store there that had some cardboard up in the window, and I had been told that somebody was maybe opening a snowboard shop. And so I pushed in on the door, and it was open. And there's this guy behind the counter, and these 3 kids like, "Oh, we can't wait till you open. We're so excited." And I'm like, "Oh, this is the guy, I think." So I'm like, "Hey," he's like, "Can I help you?" I was like, "I heard you were maybe opening a snowboard shop or something." He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Damn." I said, "You beat me to it." I said, "I was thinking about doing that here as well." He's like, "Well, actually, my partner just crapped the bed on me, and I need a partner."
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So we wandered down the street to Kamloops, a little bar there. That's where the Canada Little Theater is right now.
Yep.
And had a couple drinks, and $7,500 later, I owned half a snowboard shop.
Oh, that's
wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
So many people just thinking about entrepreneurship because it's like sort of the heart and soul of like everything, all the people we talk to, all the things we do. But so many people think that, like, how do I start? I hear this all the time. People constantly ask me, how did I get started? How do you get started? They think they have to have it all figured out. And here's a guy that just shows up in town, and he really gets in for no money. I mean, 75, don't get me wrong, is a lot of money, especially for probably, that time period for a young man, getting up. But the reality is in the big scheme of things, like, you're setting yourself up just by showing up and saying yes to the thing and just figuring it out. Because this one little decision to move to this market led to a life connected to some of the most influential people in the world, some of the wealthiest people in the world. I'm not talking like just 9 figures. I'm talking 10 figures, 11 figures. Like, that's his reality. And he's so understated here. And it all goes back to a little snowboard shop in Sandpoint, Idaho that a guy crapped out in. He put $7,500 on it, and he's in business. Like, what a story. Like, right there, like, that should inspire a whole bunch of people that want to do the thing, and they're thinking they need to have it all figured out. They don't have enough money. Like, there's countless ways to get started, but I just feel like I wanted to just shed a little light on what I thought was just a simple golden nugget to put yourself where you want to be, say yes to an idea, and then just figure it out, and maybe luck will jump on your side.
Yeah, talk too about real estate, because, you're 58, Shawn?
56.
56. Okay.
I'm aging.
57 in like 2 months.
57, 2 months. All right, cool.
Slow down.
Hey now. I know I've got gray hair, but come on.
52.
In the spirit of a 20-year-old.
Edit that
That's right.
remark. No, whatever. So, but Gozzer came later in your real estate career.
It did.
So, I mean, you earned your chops and hit levels of success long before
Way before.
Gozzer came to be, which again
Obviously.
opens future doors. But talk to us about
The bridge.
Yeah, the bridge from running a ski shop to getting into real estate to Gozzer.
And maybe start with sort of the metrics of the snowboard shop, and then bridge that leap, because I'm still curious, like, that entry point into business for you obviously probably taught you a lot.
So what happened was we got the snowboard shop up to doing probably $500,000 a year.
Oh, good.
So, we were making, I don't know, $80,000, $90,000 a year, but for 2 guys, because I had a partner, it's just not quite going to cut it. And I said, I'd always wanted to get into real estate. I'd always kind of, driven around and looked at property and everything. And so I always kind of had that eye on real estate. And I was waiting tables at the floating restaurant out in Hope because needed that second stream of income because,
Wow.
And one of the waitresses there was like, or server, I should say, I'm sorry, said to me, well, hey, Don's looking for an agent up at Schweitzer, and I lived up at Schweitzer. So I went and got my real estate license, and they just basically threw me into the office up there, and I started selling real estate. I was the manager of the office with, brand new agent and everything else, and just kind of got thrown into it. And I always liked kind of concentrating on one area where I knew it really well, and it was a little bit more compact as opposed to having to drive all over town and everything. But the cool thing about that was my first sale was Marty Becker, who's Chicken Soup for the Pet Lover's Soul. He's on Good Morning America and everything. Oh, yeah. He knew me from the snowboard shop, and when he heard I was in real estate, he's like, you always took care of me at the snowboard shop. I know you'll take care of me in real estate.
Wow.
It transfers.
And I found this piece of property on the lake that was awesome. It was actually, I think it was the highest priced lot sale right off the bat that they'd had ever. And so kind of boom, off we went.
So the chicken soup, is that the same? Because I met Mark Victor Hansen. Mm-hmm. So is that his partner, or
it's the same series,
but it's a different author?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he actually writes the book, but yeah, it's a whole series, Chicken Soup.
Yeah.
And they take experts.
He's the number one author, I think, in the world.
Yeah.
It's like those guys that wrote those chicken soup series, like almost 700 million books sold or something.
Yeah.
Like it's over $500 million
Incredible
for sure.
run.
And he lives north of Bonners, just family guy, just
Good
wonderful person. Yeah.
Insight to with the type of people that are coming right to Sean's lap. But this is his first customer.
That's my first sale.
That's
awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my broker was like, "What are you doing?"
Sometimes luck happens, or maybe it was this ski the stuff that connected you. Like who knows where the connection really?
Yeah, he
came
knew me
from.
from the snowboard shop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you, what inspired you to get into owning? You owned a brokerage at one point.
Yeah, so after about 5 years at Coldwell Banker, I knew I wanted to start my own business, and I talked to the owners at Coldwell Banker. We just couldn't come to terms on a deal there, pricing wise. So I ran into John Butler at the boat show in Spokane one day, and I said, "Hey, John, I'm talking about starting up a brokerage in Sandpoint, and I know you used to have the C21 brokerage up there.
Yeah.
Is it still available?" He's like, and he gave me the name of this Ken guy that was the franchise sales, and I was able to purchase the franchise in Sandpoint for $25,000.
Oh, nice. So good score. So John had it first, the C21 up there, and he sold it.
He didn't sell it. He just kind of gave it up. He was like, it's a tough market to break into.
Yeah, right.
It's a little bit,
To make sense for John.
Yeah, it's just, and so I got the brokerage. I went and recruited a couple agents, and then actually brought in a partner who was one of the top agents in Sandpoint.
Right.
But I knew he had some kids, and maybe he was going to want to pass a legacy down to them. So it was a good match there.
Sure.
And so we started Century 21 in 2005, and by 2008 we were number one in units sold in Sandpoint.
Nice.
Oh, fantastic.
So 25K in. What other investments are you making early on in buying a brokerage? That's your first one ever.
Yep.
Did it come with more strings attached than you thought?
No, it actually was pretty easy. If we did, I think $1 million in commission income the first year, they actually rebated it back to us. So
wow.
It was free.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you did it.
Yep.
Oh, that's very cool.
God, I'm just chomping. This man's got triplets. He's got an amazing life. I'm feeling pressed for time. I want to get right to Gozzer. So you sold that in 05?
So I started in 05.
Okay.
2011, I was up at Schweitzer, and our neighbors were Andy Holleran. He was the director of development at Gozzer.
Yeah.
Who was his name?
Andy Holleran.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's done a bunch of stuff in Bozeman and Missoula, but we were neighbors, and my stepdaughter had babysat his kids and stuff, and so we were just out maybe having a few pops, and he's like, "Hey, we kind of need a new broker at Gozzer. Would you consider doing it?" It was kind of as a joke. And about 3 days later, I kind of thought about it a little bit, and I knew enough about Discovery and what they were doing that I was like, that could be a pretty interesting situation. So I went back to him. I said, "Andy, were you serious about that?" And he's like, "Well, kind of, yeah." And so it just went from there.
Yeah. So Discovery Land Company, for people who don't know, you can go look them up, but these guys develop some of the most incredible properties all over the world. I don't know back in 2011, like what state they were at. Maybe you can speak to that. But from my perspective now, I'm thinking of the Madison. There's so many Discovery Land properties, but the Yellowstone Club, the Madison Club, you got Gozzer. They're in Hawaii. They're in Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. They're amazing though, and they've attracted literally the wealthiest people on planet Earth. These are some of the best communities that money can buy. They don't get better than this. This is the top of the food chain, like the very, very top. And these guys know how to market like I've never seen. They understand brand like I've never seen. And in 2011, I don't know the level of business they were at, but these are legendary people now at this point in the game. Honestly, they just are. They built some of the most incredible things. So in 2011, were you aware of what this could be? Was it not there yet? What was the state of affairs with Discovery in 2011?
Well, Discovery was, they had Yellowstone Club. They had started Madison Club.
They were already rolling.
I think Iron Horse had already turned to the members up in Whitefish. They had done a couple of projects. Estancia was their first one in Arizona. But 2011 was the bottom of the market here.
Yeah.
And so I had sold my business and as an agent myself was doing pretty well. And our first year at Gozzer, I think we sold about $10 million worth of real estate.
Oh man!
I was like, "What have I done?"
Yeah, this was a disaster.
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh no, what's going to happen here?" But you could see the vision, and you just knew what was up there, that it was pretty special. Yeah. And even then, I think we were selling homes for $1 million, and local agents were like, well, how can you sell something that's not on the water for $1 million?
Yeah, I get that.
It's like, well, it's Gozzer,
Yeah, it's Gozzer.
And we'd been members since 2006, so I knew what Gozzer was all about,
Right.
and you could see the potential there and how just what a special place it was.
It
And
is special.
when members from other Discovery clubs would come there, they're like, this place is so great.
Yeah.
It's really unique if you look at like the history of a country, the history of humanity, to get to be with someone in the 1%, just to meet one individual at a top 1% of success is a gift. If you converse with them, get to know them, but here you have a whole community of individuals that are incredibly successful. What are some of the things that you get asked about what it's like to work with that kind of population? Some of the things that stand out to you over the years that you observe to be significant, like what comes, people must ask you. Yeah.
They're successful people and they're all driven, but they're just like the rest of us. I mean, they have the same concerns, same worries. And so it's really just relating to them as a person. It's not like, oh, you must be this amazing
fanboy.
You can't be overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
And they appreciate when you're not. I mean, they do like to share their story because they've all been successful, but a lot of times you kind of have to draw it out of them.
Right.
Now, obviously some of the, it depends on the industry they're in too. If you're in, say, an athlete or a celebrity of some sort, you're a little more used to being in the public eye, but a lot of these guys, built very successful businesses and nobody knows who they are.
Right.
They must love that.
And they love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the greatest story I got actually was when I lived in Kansas. Bill Koch was actually knew him through a family friend. And he said the worst thing he ever did is their company name wasn't Coke Oil at first. It was something different, but they were in New York and couldn't get a table. And his finance guy was like, well, you need to change the name so these people know who you are. And they made it Coke Oil. And now he's well known and he doesn't like that.
Oh, I bet.
So it's just learning how to relate to them. And like I said, they're all we're all looking for the same thing, really.
Yeah.
So with Gozzer, I mean, you have a front row seat to all the movement in this very exclusive community of people, right? So how does the program work out there? And they're only hiring one broker, so you're the one guy, and really most of that business just really funnels through you. I mean, it's a really nice setup, first of all, but like maybe give a little bit of clarity on how that works. Like you are the man there, right?
So Discovery, at every property, they have their own brokerage,
Right.
and it's owned by Discovery, and they have a sales team. And I was just lucky enough to be asked to be the broker there, essentially.
I see.
Because most of their sales guys come through the golf ranks, actually.
Sure, makes
and
sense.
you'll see that here in Coeur d'Alene too. Like Greg Rowley, John Butler.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these really successful agents were on the golf side of things. They
Yes.
know how to talk to people and relate to people.
That's the best
so
way.
It's kind of
I always
interesting.
thought that was Greg's big secret, is he's such a good golfer. And so that's what he
he
did
was a
so well
golf
at BlackRock, because he's just always golfing. So really, golf, what a gift if you can turn that into an asset to sell real estate, because it is. I mean, there's a lot of deals made on a golf course in countless different ways. Always noticed that for years. But were you filling someone else's shoes in Gozzer when you showed up? Was there already someone that had gotten the ball rolling? And who was out there in 2011? Was there any big names out there at that time, or was it still like really under?
There was definitely some names out there, and I mean, I'm not going to really share a lot of the names with you, just because that's one of the appeals of Gozzer, is that it's very private and they protect the members quite a bit. And the members like when they come here that people don't really, like you said, like fanboy. They're all just, they kind of, that's what's cool about Coeur d'Alene. People don't get starstruck.
Yeah,
it seems like we
yeah,
just kind of
people
go,
are down to earth here.
we get it. You love it here.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
But there was a broker there before me, Bud Bolin, who had come from Sun Valley, and Bud was a big ranch guy. And I think kind of at the time what there was, Gozzer Ranch is the name, which comes from John Gozzer, who owned the property up there, but it was more of a golf and lake club. And so I kind of came more from that side of the lifestyle part of things. And I think that's where the change occurred in the brokerage.
I see.
Yeah.
How's the change been from Gozzer when you started till now?
Oh, it's amazing. We have 56 homes under construction right now.
It's amazing.
When I was up there, when I first started, it was still really intimate, and I think we had 180 members at that point. Now we're at 310.
Right.
So it's a little busier, but it's gotten better every year.
Right.
Discovery kind of takes a sense of place and then magnifies it, and they've just continued to improve on that every year.
Sure. Yeah, it's a cool company. These guys are iconic for sure.
I'd love to ask you, Shawn, like in terms of your temperament, you have an easygoing nature. Everybody we ask to be on this show, we ask them, we like to hit two spectrums, all right? So it all has to do with one's personal mission, one of their highest visions in their life, what they're after, what they're pursuing. But also, you know, I had a mentor once say, you can only go as high as you've once been low. To hear people talk about a struggle, something they had to overcome, what they learned from it. I'd be really interested to hear you answer that question. And by the way, it is hard to answer this question, like, what's your mission? Most people go like off the cuff, but if you really sit with it, it comes through. Like, what drives you? What's your mission? If you had to be framed in that kind of box and answer a question in that box, like, what's your personal mission? And then if you could maybe relate for us and the listener, like, a struggle you overcame that might relate to that. Is that clear enough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, I think, you know, my mission or my life is always, I figured out when I was working at the Board of Trade, I had a gal invite me to New York City for the weekend, and I had to leave on a Friday. And I told my boss, I said, hey, I'm taking off. I won't be in here Friday. Not taking a sick day or anything. I just, you know, going to meet this girl in New York City. And he looked at me and he said, you know, I've been here 35 years and never taken a day off. And that hit me. I was like, man, that's sad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that that's something I'd be promoting.
Yeah.
And it kind of hit me right then that I was like, okay, I don't know that I want to wear a tie ever again.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I guess, be restrained by thinking I have to be in the office every day.
Yeah.
And I just kind of have gone from there. And I think I told you guys once before when we did the Real Producer stuff that I've always moved somewhere for the lifestyle, and I figured that the job would figure itself out.
Yeah.
And I think if you're passionate about where you are and what you're doing, that stuff does kind of fall into place.
I want to pause there for a second. We had a previous guest in the podcast, and I won't get into his story, but his mission was like to help people unleash greatness and pursue the lifestyle they want. You just kind of rolled over that. That takes courage, man, to trust. I'm going to pursue quality of life here, and the rest will sort out. I mean, in a way, it's not a casual commitment. Like, was that hard ever? Or
well, it was easy when I wasn't married.
Okay, say more.
But I didn't get married till I was 38, and then I had triplets when I was 41. So now it's like, oh,
he's got triplets.
I want to provide them with the lifestyle that I've had. So now you're kind of a little stressed because, like, I got to make some money to make sure these kids have a good time.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't take money to have a good time necessarily.
Yeah.
I think it's spending the time with them and introducing them to things like the outdoors and the things that we love about this area.
Yeah.
And so that's been my goal with my kids. Is just to, I get kids outside is kind of my hashtag on Instagram for when I put pictures of my kids up.
Yeah.
Because I just want them to get out and be active and don't want to be. And if they play video games for an hour, that's fine if they're 3 hours outside.
Yeah.
But so the hardest part there though was when the kids were in the NICU for 52 days because they were born at 29 weeks.
Oh, wow.
We'd get the call every day like, oh, this one's liver's not working or these one's kidneys are failing. And my wife's a wreck every day. Wow. So I tell the doctor, I said, quit calling her, call me, and then I'll filter it out.
Yeah.
And I was working in Sandpoint, driving to Sacred Heart every day. That was probably the hardest thing I've ever done.
Season of your life, yeah.
And then still maintain a positive attitude because you had all this stuff coming at you.
Yeah.
But then what was cool of that was that we then were asked to be up for Festival of Trees. They were doing the NICU at Kootenai here. Oh. And I could relate to that having to drive all the way to Spokane every day. I mean, it's another 45 minutes, but they put in a NICU now, so it's a regional. So people from Sandpoint, people from, say, Moscow can come up here and go to that instead of having to go all the way to Spokane.
Yeah, triplets, wow.
Yeah.
That's not
amazing.
An easy thing to work yourself through. But
3 times
what a
the fun.
blessing. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think about like your position, would have a ton of questions around the clientele. And I'm trying to think, like, what are some of the challenges that you face? What are the pros and cons? What are some of the struggles that you have dealing with some of the most high net worth people on the planet? I mean, there's a lot of people that want to break into the luxury market, and a lot of young, mindsets out there that are looking at what you're doing and they're going to want to have some advice there in that category. So maybe you can touch on some of the challenges and any advice.
Well, I think the funniest thing and I've told people this before, I think it's easier sometimes to sell $1 million house than it is a $100,000 house. Because for a first-time home buyer, that's their biggest investment they've ever made in their life.
Sure.
And I mean, they are so stressed. Whereas what I'm selling it's not a want, or it's not a need, it's a want.
Right.
Like, I want this lifestyle, I want to live in this place. So I think in a lot of ways, luxury buying is easier, or selling is easier. But it's also, they don't need it, so it's not as always in demand.
Sure.
It's a little more subject to the whims of the marketplace.
Right.
So And then the other thing is people, I think they get overwhelmed talking to successful people. They're a little afraid, maybe like, well, they're going to think that, maybe they're afraid of themselves. Like they're going to see through me. I not really know what I'm doing. And it's just having that confidence that you know what you're doing, you're good at it, and you can relate to people.
Sure. Yeah. That's good advice, really.
Yeah. You mentioned, I'm remembering now in a conversation a while back that you were really struck that the motivations behind a buyer, let's say in a luxury market, if I remember correctly, they were very relatable. Like they're thinking about their family and experiences. Say more about that. Like they think about a purchase. There's a lot more meaning to it than you'd realize.
What I get from so many people at Gozzer is that they remember growing up and going to the lake with their family, or skiing or tubing or whatever it is, and they're trying to recreate that for their kids. Like I just want my kids to have that feeling that I had when I'd go to the lake on the weekend, and Coeur d'Alene speaks to them as that, because you go downtown, that seems like there's a parade every other weekend,
Yeah,
it's like Mayberry, or
it's 100%.
And it's how we grew up, where your parents sent you out the door in the morning and said, "Don't come home to the street lights turn on."
Totally. Yeah.
That's what it's like at Gozzer.
I came home at dark.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Yeah.
I'd be
And
gone all day.
they have that at Gozzer for their kids.
Yeah.
But you can
they
do that because it's a community. Everybody watches out for one another.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But I mean, it just makes me sad that not all kids get to experience
It's true.
that.
Yeah, it is sad. I was lucky enough when I was little. My grandpa had a secondary lakefront home up in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
And my favorite memories of my childhood, actually the best part about my childhood, was going up to Lake Tahoe in the spring to break open the cabin, and then the cabin smells. It was nothing fancy, just
It had
tiny
that
little,
musty smell. And
We'd clean. We had to do the pine needles. We had to oil the decks. There was all these work that had to be done. But I realized part of my success in my life was, well, first of all, I stacked up quite a few chips as a youngster that I leveraged. But beyond that, I really was chasing like this childhood feeling. It was a smell. It was a scent in the air. It was an emotion. And I think I came as close as I can to get it. You really can't fully capture it, but Hayden Lake did that for me.
Yeah, because you have a little nostalgia wrapped around your
100%.
childhood,
Yeah.
But it's funny you say the smell.
Yes.
Because that's one thing that other people say when they come up.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, it smells so clean
smell.
up here.
Yeah.
You come from LA, you're smelling smog and
Right.
ozone, and
Yeah.
it's all pine trees, and
Yeah.
and it's so green. It's awesome.
Sure.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people talking about Coeur d'Alene, and you mentioned it from LA. We're driving a lot of Californians up here. I mean, there's such a spotlight on this market right now. I don't know if you feel the influx of people coming here, or if you could speak to that, but it does seem like Coeur d'Alene's really on the map right now. I think it was Wall Street Journal that put Coeur d'Alene as the #1 city in America during COVID. I can't remember the exact context of that article, but we were on the cover.
Yeah.
But do you feel the surge? And I mean, how I always imagined Gozzer being, and for that, at least that community, but Coeur d'Alene at large really, was someone's friend, business partner would come up to golf for a vacation, then they buy property. And it was so that one by one, word of mouth. But now it feels like, this is the next like Aspen almost, and or one of these markets like that. It's super well known. But do you get a sense of that from your perspective? That
Oh, definitely. Yeah. When I first started, it was, if you told somebody about Coeur d'Alene, like, they knew the floating green.
Okay.
That put us on the map. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys have that floating green.
That was it, right?
And now it's all their friends are inviting, they're inviting their friends up, and you talk about Coeur d'Alene. Oh, that lake is beautiful. They know the area, and and we had some bad press back in the '90s as well that people knew about. I remember getting interviewed about that, but now I think if we had Montana behind our name instead of Idaho, we would have blown up long ago.
Right.
So we're just starting to get discovered, but I used to have the kids like at the snowboard shop, I can't wait to get out of town. I got to get out of here. This place is so boring. And I'm like, you guys, it's pretty good.
Yeah, they
here.
don't have a clue.
And then they come
how
back
valuable.
5-6 years later and they're like, oh man, you were right. This place is awesome. And the outside world's discovering how awesome this is. And let's try not to make it not awesome.
We need to keep it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the biggest fears people have in this community is that outsiders are going to come in, they're going to press their ways upon this community. From my perspective, our business deals with so many people that have just bought into this market. We're one of the first beneficiaries of that process. But I will just say, from my perspective, these are some of the kindest, most giving people that are coming from different places in America. These people really value what's here, and I think they're bringing, for the majority of them, I think they're bringing that. Some of the best people I know are happen to be from California, and they're just game changers. These are the people that give, they never take. They're really winners in society, and they're valuable assets for your community. They bring a lot to the community. I will say prices, though, this market seems like, we're kind of pushing out our children in this community. It's so expensive to live here. How can these kids like work and grow in this market and stay around because everything's so expensive. Do you see, like, it's just from your perspective, kind of the top down look, a way for us to really create an economy here that supports the youth so they can afford to live here?
Well, I think the stuff like they're doing at the Hive and the Den and all those types of things that, bring in entrepreneurial, because you can work anywhere now, and that's what people are discovering.
Right.
But a lot of money is coming into the area, so it's driven prices up. So the people that, have been here forever are getting priced out.
Sure.
But in some ways too, I think there's maybe a little mindset change that needs to happen maybe with some of the kids here. Like, okay, I can do whatever I want. I can stay here and be successful.
Yeah.
I can do stuff online. And I do feel that change coming, but I can't imagine being 25 and living here right now. It'd be tough.
One of my big motivations, we have a development going on off 95 in Lancaster. We're in our phase 1 of that. But as I think about the bigger development down the road, we got 80 acres. We have another 20 or 37 on that corner. But I'm trying to think, what industries can we bring here that are going to be really healthy for the economy? We'll bring uses here that the economy is desperate for. They really do need, because there's so much demand for stuff here, and there's no one to fill the demands. And I get it every day. It's, it took me like 3 months to get my windows cleaned. I mean, just dumb stuff. Like I can't, someone's going to come fix my fridge from Fred's, and we'll get to you next fall. Like, it's like that around here. There's just a demand. And if young people spot the opportunity, and if, entrepreneurs step up to the plate and take some big risks, we're in that game now. We've secured all the land. We really want to bring some industry here that'll hopefully be some high paying jobs, some tech jobs. Like, who knows how we do it. But from my perspective, it's the people that are in Gozzer, and I know a lot of them, and there's some just solid humans out there. I was just talking to one yesterday and the day before yesterday, and like, they're looking at Coeur d'Alene now almost like, all right, well, I never considered Coeur d'Alene as a place I want to invest and really help build up the economy and really contribute in a way that's valuable. Most people don't think of that, but it is valuable. All this dollars flowing in here to create an economy out of that. But I think that there's a really beautiful, bright future here, that young people should be looking at with like clarity. Like, this is a lot of opportunity here.
I think there's more and more now. I mean, for a while there, it was logging and mining, and now it was tourism. But I think there's more than that we can start to do for the kids. And the people, like when Gozzer first started, there was kind of this attitude, it's, this elitist out there, and they don't care.
I get it.
And now you look at how much money is being driven back into the community, and the philanthropy people are doing, and a lot of it they don't tell people what they're doing.
No,
but there's been millions and millions of dollars donated back to this community cancer fund.
100%. They did
Boys
a
and Girls
job.
Clubs.
Yeah.
The Gozzer members invest back in the communities that they live in, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. They bring cool events here. They really bring a spice. But Community Cancer Fund, I think that's a good place to give a really quality shout out, because what they've done in this community, I think, has been pretty amazing.
Local guys doing it,
right?
But they're bringing in all this outside money and doing
Fritz
well.
Wolf and the Gees, those guys are just amazing people. I look up to them. Those are people that I look at as role models and someone that I try to mirror and be like. But I mean, those guys are game changers. You got to give them credit. There's all these mouthpieces that may not be happy with Coeur d'Alene, the growth or whatever. But at the end of the day, this community, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. We're lucky that it's happening with people that care about America and freedom and the community the way it is, because that's who we're drawing here. Let's be honest. We're drawing like-minded people that want to keep our streets safe. They're trying to, escape the places where they see like government overreach. Like, these are the things that Coeur d'Alene draws, bottom line, end of story. Like, so it's better that, because these are the givers in society, not the takers, I promise you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome too to, in lieu of our time to wrap up, swing back to this mission-driven question for you, Shawn.
Sure.
You remind me, I can't remember his name. He's one of the co-founders of Netflix. He's like an angel investor in multiple companies, and it reminds me of your story about working in that stock-related capacity and that Friday to go on a simple date or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was like, look, man, for 30 years I've invested in multiple companies. You call me at 4:58 p.m. on a Tuesday, I'll take the call, but I'll tell you, hey, I'm going to get off this call in 92 seconds to go on a date with my wife. He didn't miss it for 35 years, no matter. And I just love that, because obviously it's a man who's on a mission, accomplishing things, but he protected that. And at a distance, I admire that about you. You practice what you preach. I mean, I'm in this local market. I know you, and I get to see pictures of the adventures you go on with your sons. But maybe if you could kind of end with a story or a remark about that collision of like lifestyle, accomplishment. Maybe there's a Gozzer guest or something in there that kind of illustrates the importance of having the courage to, I mean, Eric talks about this all the time. Life's short. We're all going to die. Like, live the life you want to live, man. So does something come to mind from your experience with your friends at Gozzer's that exemplifies that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I met a guy who was, huge. I think it was with Shearson Lehman Brothers, maybe out of Chicago, and he moved up. He was 42. He had sold. I think he sold for like $105 million or something like that. Wow. And he was super bummed. I'm like, "What's wrong, man?" And he's like, "Oh, well, you go up, snowboarding at Schweitzer. I'd love to be a good skier, but I missed my time." I'm like, "Whoa,
42.
What are you talking about? You're 42 years old. You go ski 100 days a year for the next 5 years, and guess what? You'll be a great skier."
Yeah.
But he really felt like he had worked, he was working 110, 120 hours a week.
Wow. Just
crazy, just go. And he felt like he missed out on all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be that balance in there. And
You gotta have happiness.
I was sad for him. I was like, "Man, that you really think you're 42?" I was older than him at the time, and I was like, "No, that's not the case, buddy." But so
message.
I think that's the one thing. And I lost a lot of friends in my 20s that we were doing dumb stuff, but you do realize that at any moment it can be gone. So take the time to spend some time with your kids, to be with your loved ones, to do the things you love to do. And I remember in a down market one time, I was like, I've got to get in the office and be there 10 hours every day. This was in like 08, 09. And my business was going down. I wasn't happy. And I said, okay, I've got to make an effort to be outside every day for an hour and a half.
Smart.
Just go for a run, go skiing, go for a mountain bike ride, whatever it was. Yeah. And I started doing that, and boom, my business started going back up because I was happy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't desperate. I wasn't
so good.
So good.
That is such a good rule to add to your life. I always talk about rules. I'm doing a big speech. Half of it's about rules, but what a wonderful rule to add in. Like, get outside every single day.
What's your hashtag again?
Get kids outside.
Get kids outside. Well, there you go. We're living it, man. That's amazing. Shawn, thank you so much. This is so cool to get a little peek into your world, and I'd love to do this again someday.
Sure.
Thank you, Shawn.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Awesome.
Man on a mission.
Man on a mission.
I'm a man on a mission.